instead of saying like, hey, it's not going to work for the Niners to get Watson for these reasons and going about it in a negative way, what we want to do is let's entertain this idea. Let's say this is possible. Let's play it out from every perspective, from Houston's perspective, from the Niners' perspective, and then talk about it at the end to see if it's something you think is worthwhile and feasible. So,
yeah.
Vish, let's talk it out from Houston's perspective first.
So starting with the deal that guy just offered.
Oh, from the 49ers perspective first.
Yeah. So if the 49ers could offer that and get Deshaun Watson, I think you could sign everybody else, everybody in the world up. That's like a fleece and a half. That's
right. Like if all it was Jimmy and a couple of firsts, do that.
If they can get Jimmy, why not just trade for Mahomes? 2 firsts, Jimmy, and we'll throw in Eric. We'll throw in the extra first for Mahomes. But that's not how the NFL works, right? So let's get into this Deshaun Watson. So I want to start off by saying, I love the idea of Deshaun Watson being on the 49ers. I love that idea. I love that idea in 2017. It didn't happen, but I'm a huge Deshaun Watson fan. I think he's one of the 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that Grant always talks about this topic on Twitter. He talks about it on his shows, but he talks about quarterbacks that he thinks make too much money. The quarterback in general makes too much money. Deshaun Watson's one of those quarterbacks where I say, Grant, to heck your stats, all of those things. Whatever Deshaun wants, I'm going to pay him. I think he's that good, and I think there's only 5 guys who are that good. So I feel that strongly about Deshaun Watson. So let's play it out from the 49ers perspective, right? I've seen a lot of hypothetical offers thrown out, but I've only seen one factual, informative offer thrown out. And that was 4 days ago when the Deshaun Watson stuff first started swirling. Benjamin Albright, who's not Grant's friend, but is a noted league insider, this was what he said. He said the Deshaun Watson, for the deal to start, he said that the asking price for it to be discussed hypothetically would have to start at 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and a player. Okay, that's the starting point.
That's the Herschel Walker trade.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take the Herschel Walker trade and say it's the Herschel Walker trade. Let's say the 49ers make it. Okay, 2021. I think that would be their Super Bowl year. You got to go all in. Why do I say that? Deshaun Watson's cap hit, $15.4 million, extremely feasible. Eric Armstead's cap hit, $12.5 million. I think George Kittle is in the 12 to 15 range. I think you cut D Ford, you lose Jimmy, you lose Weston Richburg, you bring back Trent Williams.
Also, the long-term ramifications of trading 6 picks haven't hurt you yet. It's year 1. That's something that hurts you down the line because that's your lifeblood to rebuild.
Right. We'll get into it, right?
Yeah.
You got Deshaun Watson, you got Kyle Shanahan, healthy Debo, healthy Brandon Ayuk. You have Richie James, right? You have George Kittle. You bring back Trent Williams. Guess what? When you extend Fred Warner's deal, though it will be front-loaded, it'll be an extension, right? They're not going to tear up year 4. So he's going to have a low cap hit. Mike McGlinchey, though I can almost guarantee they're going to accept that 5th-year option, he's only a $6 million cap hit for a tackle in that year 4. So 2021 all in. I think here's where I say, can you win the Super Bowl in 1 year? Because Deshaun Watson, quarterback that level, coach this level, usually, right, you think Super Bowl, but it takes a year for them to gel. I think it would take a year to gel.
Real quick. Also, if you trade for Deshaun Watson, can you give Trent Williams a 5-year contract where he's making $23 million a year? I don't think you can.
You'd have to get very creative with the structure.
I don't think you can. I think you'd have to go a little bit cheaper at left tackle and say, you know what, we're paying Deshaun Watson to make magic in the pocket and to protect himself to a certain extent. Sorry.
Right, because the big thing would be not 2021, right? You could fit him in 2021. They have a lot of backloaded contracts.
Right.
2022, 2023, how do you fit him in? Maybe, let's say Parag gets super creative. You get Trent back, you get Verrett back. Maybe Verrett's a short-term deal, 2-year deal. Okay, so now you got this cap thing figured out. So let's say they don't win. Let's say they win the Super Bowl in 2021, right? Then we would all be happy, right? Because then we could be the Green Bay Packers after 2011. We could be the Seattle Seahawks after 2012. We have a few highly paid players, a great quarterback, a really good coach. Green Bay didn't have one, but they had a great quarterback. And Seattle has basically both, and the Niners would have both, and we would make the playoffs every year. If they don't win it, right, you would just think, hey, retool in 2022. We were this close. We lost in the NFC Championship game, or we lost in the NFC Divisional round. Our team was great. 1 more year of Deshaun. But here's what starts to happen. How are you going to retool this roster, right?
What?
Because guess who goes in 2022? Laken Tomlinson. Guess who's played 3 years and becomes a restricted free agent? Daniel Brunskill. Well, Daniel Brunskill, right? Just tender him, second round tender. That's $3 million. Do you have cap room to pay the $3 million? Who knows? Then maybe your 6th round tender, you lose Daniel Brunskill. So these kind of things start to play in, right? Because now you're gonna have, right? You're gonna have Deshaun Watson. You're gonna have Raheem Mostert on his last deal. You're gonna have Jimmy Ward on his last deal. I think Jeff Wilson. If I'm right, this is restricted. Is he restricted this year and unrestricted the next year?
I believe so. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because he was 18, 19, 20, so restricted and then unrestricted next year. Yes.
Right. So I think he fits into that category too, right?
Yeah.
So this is where I go into it, and I'm trying to work out, like, how do you retool this roster, right? Because usually if you have a bunch of highly paid players, you start to try to draft and get cheaper guys to fit into your roster.
Right.
They're not going to be able to fill out their roster through the draft.
And they won't have a round 1 pick or a round 2 pick until like 2025.
Right. And like the idea of good quarterback, good coach. Great quarterback always works with this, right? There's 2 types of great quarterbacks. There's the Tom Brady, who has the coach, has the roster, has everything. And then there's Aaron Rodgers, who's been carrying everything. And everyone says, well, put Aaron Rodgers on the Patriots and it would work. But Tom Brady also took $15 million to play for the Patriots the last 10 years. Aaron Rodgers took $30 million. That's the point Grant makes. And so where you would start to get into it is that I'm not saying that this would happen. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm not saying this is a good thing. But I think what would happen is I think Kyle Shanahan, Deshaun Watson overall, good enough to make the playoffs. But I think that they would always be a couple pieces short because, like, you can bring up the Chiefs, right? Good quarterback, good coach. But that quarterback's cheap and that roster is loaded. That roster is loaded. Nobody brings up how stacked that roster is every single year, but it is loaded. And so we can, right? I don't even think the idea of trading for Deshaun Watson is plausible in any capacity, just because I'm a see it to believe it kind of guy when it comes to somebody this good, this young. I need to see this happen, and then I'll believe it and say, whoa, this happened. But go ahead.
Well, it just seems to me that with what we're seeing, like what we're projecting out is 2-3 years down the line, the Niners would be a team with 8 superstars, not superstars, but 8 players making premium, top of the market money, paid to be superstars, and a team with no middle class, no mid-level players, no depth, a bunch of guys you get at the dollar store because you don't have draft picks, a bunch of late picks. That's the way I mean, day 3 picks. And so, they're the Cowboys. They're the Cowboys at that point. Because every year the Cowboys, hey, at least we got Dak and Amari and Zeke, and it's like, and now you're 8-8.
Their only difference is they'll make the playoffs because they have a good coach and the Cowboys don't. So they have that, right? But then if we're talking Super Bowl long-term dynasty, right? If you pick Deshaun Watson in 2017, Niners might be trending that way of 10 years of long-term success, all of that. I just think that there's so much. You say we got Greenlaw in store. Guess what? Greenlaw, this is his 3rd year, 2021. 2022, Greenlaw is bye-bye if you have Deshaun Watson, Eric Armstead, all these guys. And then how do you replace Greenlaw, So I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not saying this is good. I'd love Deshaun Watson to play, but I just think that these are the conversations the Niners themselves, if this is plausible, we don't know how feasible this is. We don't know what conversations they're having. But if they deem this, I'm sure that these are the conversations they're having. And they're probably thinking about, well, how do we get creative? If we can do this, right? You want to get Deshaun Watson. Who wouldn't want to get Deshaun Watson? But how can we be creative in ensuring that we're getting the best roster around Deshaun Watson every single year if this is the draft capital that we would have to give up?
Because you don't want to be Houston. You already see a team that's messed it up, and he just went 4-12 this year.
Yeah,
So what Vish and I are saying here is that if the Niners pull off this trade, we don't necessarily believe it would lead to a Super Bowl victory for them. And their best chance would be this upcoming season. If they don't get it done in the first year of the marriage between Watson and Shanahan, it might get progressively more difficult down the line as he gets expensive and assets dwindle away.
Right. And, he, with Deshaun, right, I don't even think that I think their 4-12 this season is misleading. I think they had the worst possible starting schedule of any roster. They had to play Kansas City. They had to play Baltimore. They had to play Pittsburgh. They had Buffalo somewhere in there early. And they were done. Their season was over before it started and Billy O'Brien was gone. I could see if they bring back Will Fuller, maybe move a couple players around on defense and get a couple more people that way and just get a slight upgraded head coach. Not hard to do. Bill O'Brien's okay. He's not great. Maybe they hire Brian Daboll, whatever. I could see them being 9-7 next year and being the 7th seed in the playoffs with Deshaun Watson. Yeah. I think he's that good. So, and I think their schedule will be much more favorable now that they don't have to play a first place schedule. They're playing a fourth place schedule. So I just think that there's so much right here that we have to get into. And it's not as simple as, hey, trade for Deshaun Watson, do whatever is necessary, right? That's basic. We have to get into every little detail.
Right. So what Vish and I are saying is, if from our perspective, if we were running the 49ers, this would not be the move we would make. We would not do the Herschel Walker trade for Deshaun Watson. We don't think it would be in our interest as the 49ers executives. We don't think this is the Niners' best move. But now
I'm not even sure about that. I haven't even made a decision. I'm just throwing out all the variables. Somebody else can make the decision. I'll give you the reason.
It seems like to me it's not the best move.